What is happening?
Well, that's a perfectly understandable question given
I'm an if. Get it? Imaginary friend?
When you're on set, how are you getting everyone on the same page to picture these wacky characters standing in front of them?
That was one of the biggest challenges I had, because as many times as you explain it, it all still, to your point, it sounds insane. It sounds a little bit like a drug trip or something. So what I did was I had super talented puppeteers that came up with puppets or stuffed animals. And so we had representation of most of all the ifs on set. And then I actually ended up, probably more than the actors wanted, I ended up puppeteering most of them. And so, for example, the Cosmo scene in the hallway where Ryan's interacting with Cosmo on his back, that's me attacking him. At the end of that day, Ryan texted me, "I love what a menace you are as Cosmo." And I said, that's the greatest compliment of the day.
There's one scene in the movie where Cosmo comes through my window and he like goes around me and he gets in my face. And I was so nervous for that because I was like, okay, I don't want to look silly. Like, and I've never done this before. I see Ryan do it and he looks so good doing it. I just want to look like him. So John got Cosmo's hat and he like moved it all around me so I knew what it would feel like. But it's just things like that that make him a good director. I don't know of other directors that would go out of their way to do that.
Don't look him in the eye.
Which one?
Yeah, that's gonna grow right back.
You know, you mentioned Ryan, your wonderful co-star. He's, in my opinion, probably the biggest kid in Hollywood. What was the most kid-like thing you saw him do on or around set?
One of my favorite scenes that we did together was whenever we're walking down the street and we're like dancing and we walk up the stairs. We would just talk about the most random things. In the movie, you can hear us talking about bracelets, and I say like, they were all up my arm, and we were talking about the Taylor Swift concert. So there's that.
I was so curious what that was. That's awesome.
I think the most kid-like thing I saw him do was commit fully to this role. And by that, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation. I would tell him, you're gonna walk down this hallway and it's gonna transform from a real hallway into a magical one, and here's how, and a lot of it won't be there when you walk down. And he just went, okay, and just gave it his all. So it was almost like his inner child knew exactly what I was talking about. He was so committed, even the way he falls when he trips over Keith. By the end of the day, I was wondering if Keith was there, because I was like, he's falling so hard that their only way is if he actually tripped over someone. So there's the kid-like thing, but there's also the vulnerability. I've been a big fan of Ryan's forever. I'm lucky enough to be friendly with him now, and I think that what most people don't get to see is this incredible big heart and this deep well that he has as a father and as a husband and as a friend. And I thought, man, if I could get even a fraction of that on camera, we'd have something magical, and he delivered more than I expected.
You could save all of us.
All of who? And don't say ifs.
When you were directing Steve Carell in this, what did Blue bring out in him that you maybe hadn't seen before?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen so much of Steve that the thing that keeps impressing me of Steve is how good he is consistently. I mean, he just doesn't miss. I wrote the part for him, but I will say, even though we did the opposite together, he doesn't have to say yes. And also, I didn't know if his schedule would allow it. And so when he came in that first day, I was expecting to have so much fun and do a laugh a minute. But instead, he came in and gave me the most amazing brother speech as only a family member could, and just said he loved the script, he was moved. And ever since The Office, seeing me go on to write and direct has been super inspirational to him or emotional to him at least. And I just was so blown away at how loving he was, as he always has been. And then him jumping into Blue, it was like putting on an old hat. Yes, I wrote it for him, but he did more than my dreams could have, imagined, because he just is that character. He's almost as huggable and lovable as Blue. Dare I say it, because people will just run up to him in the street and hug him, but it's what I do, and it works.
I didn't know that I was gonna meet him. I was going to do ADR, and John comes out and he's like, oh yeah, we're just finishing with Steve, 1 second. And I was freaking out. So he comes out of his booth and I just ran up to him and I gave him a hug, and he is literally the sweetest person ever. And I thought I was going to laugh my butt off watching him, which I did. But also I was crying too. He's just so, I don't know, he's just so special. He's so good at what he does.
Thank you.